And we're live. Okay, so tonight's topic, right? Seed, SAM counter tactics, and the AGM-88 harm. We're gonna do this kind of quick and dirty. We'll go over starting off with the AGM-88. I'll do like a run through of all the modes of operation and how they all work with your buttons and your symbology and all that stuff. And then we'll move on to surface area counter tactics, SAM counter tactics. How you use all your sensors put together to keep you alive, and how to best utilize your weapons. So the AGM-88 is not the only weapon that you can use against a SAM. It's just a tool that you can use. Oh Jesus, what did I do? I'm back. Okay, alright, cool. So let's pop in here. We'll do the active pause stuff. And yeah, it'll be great. That'll be great. I should have started with this loaded. Cool. Okay, so we're mostly going to be facing, we're mostly going to be discussing SA8 and SA6 SAM counter tactics, because that's what we're going to be facing tomorrow. That's the most relevant. There are probably some of the higher threats that we'll be facing, so I figured we'll focus on that first. And we're gonna... I guess my controls didn't synchronize. That's okay. We'll just do that. Come on. There we go. Okay, and we're gonna active pause. All right, cool. So we're in our aircraft. We're trying to do some things, right? First thing we got to do is we got to be in the proper mode, right? So air to ground master mode on. Cool. We're like already halfway there. You're gonna select your harm right there, and there's three modes. First off is self-protect. Self-protect mode is probably the most bare bones mode that you could use. I'm gonna set up my countermeasure shield real quick. And yeah, so self-protect works by queuing the harm sensor to the RWR here on the right DDI. So once you're locked up by something, it's going to put a box around that emitter, and it's going to guide the harm to that emitter. We can demonstrate that as such. So I'm going to go towards our target, and again, super bare bones mode. This is what you would use like if you're like trying to bait out a SAM, and I'd set myself up way too far. So with the magic of single player, we're gonna just speed up time here and get closer to the coast. And we're hunting for things, right? So we want to be inside the employment envelope of what we're trying to kill. In this case, an SA8, we're trying to bait out some shots and see what comes up. A little more. Okay, there we go. All right, so cool. Now we see what the symbology all looks like, right? So I'm gonna do the offset here so that you guys can more clearly see how it looks like here. So we've got three SA8 emitters that are active in front of us, and what I'm going to do to step through them so I can choose which one I want to shoot at, I'm going to press the RAID FOV button on the throttle, and just like that I'll step through whichever emitters I want to look at. And right now they're all live. They're shooting the radars up at me. All I need to do now at this point is press the pickle button, and it'll guide onto the emitter that's active currently, that's boxed. So boom, there goes my missile. It's guiding towards something. There it goes. And the thing to remember here is that your missile is going to go in a very pure pursuit type curve. So it's guiding straight onto that emitter that it's locked onto. It doesn't do a loft. The range is pretty poor. And let's take a look at the missile. There's missile burnout. And as long as that SAM keeps its radar looking at me, that harm is going to guide and impact pretty reliably. Which it looks like it is. There it goes. Found the thing. All right, cool. So next mode that we're going to talk about is target of opportunity. This is probably one of the most common modes that you could use. This is what we're looking for when we're like we're hunting for things. We're trying to see what's popping up, and what the harm is going to present to you is this kind of nose-on view from the sensor of what it sees. And just like in self-protect mode, actually before that, we need to make this our sensor of interest. So to do that, we're going to use our sensor control switch to the left because it's on our left DDI. And now that's our sensor of interest. We can tell because it's got the little diamond at the top right. Now, same as self-protect mode, you're going to use the rate FOV button to step through all the emitters. And then once you're happy with the one that you've selected, you're going to press the cage uncage button, and it's going to say H off. Now that means hand off. It means that emitter has been handed off to the missile to seek out and target. Now, you'll also notice that there's a nice big box on your HUD that is centered on where that emitter is located in, not necessarily in 3D space, but like in a 2D space in front of your face. So I could steer my nose directly onto that thing and, you know, put sensors on that target box to help me find it. We'll get to that in a second. But at this point, again, all I need to do now is press the pickle button, and there goes my harm. And there it goes. And again, it's not going to loft. It's not going to do anything other than, you know, come off the rail, get its guidance algorithm locked onto that thing, and then it's going to pop that thing right in the face. So there goes. There goes a missile. Woo. Here we go. Speed it up a little bit. And again, as long as the radar stays on, it's going to guide perfectly fine. It'll hit pretty reliably. The final mode, well, the final main mode of harms is a pre-briefed mode. So pre-briefed is a little bit different. You require at least 2 pieces of information to use harm pre-briefed mode. You need to have a known location that you're trying to fire the harm at. So a waypoint, a mark point that you created with any other sensor, and the radar type. And the radar type is going to be what you're going to program in here in the UFC section here. So that's going to be your target. And you're thinking, oh, I'm shooting an SA-8, right? Like I just need to type in 8. That's the type of thing. See how it's crossed out? That's because 8 is not a valid code for it. What the harm uses in this mode is known as an ALEC code. And that's basically a code that the mission computer has loaded for the type of emitter. In this case, you can reference your user manual all the way down at the bottom where it says appendices, and it says ALEC codes. Now, in our case, we're trying to shoot a SA-8, so we just like scroll down the list of the types of radars. Let's see, what type is it? 9K33 OSA SA-8, code 117, right? So I would go into my UFC, I'd hit target 117, and there's half my battle already won, right? Now, it still needs a location, so for me to employ this, I would need to set up a waypoint or something. So I'm going to go back to TOO, and we're going to do a little bit of fancy things here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my HUD my sensor of interest. And I know it's sensor of interest because I got that dot in the middle of my velocity vector. And now I'm just going to press TDC, the TDC to press, so my little throttle designator. And look, I've created a mark point out on the HUD, and it will default to 7.5 degrees nose down unless you're lower than 7.5 degrees. And at this point, I can just move this on my HUD to wherever I want it to be, right? And I can just center it up with the TOO designator box, press TDC to press again, and now that's my mark point. I can go back to pre-brief mode, and suddenly I have all this symbology in front of me, right? So right now we're in aircraft pull-up mode. Aircraft pull-up mode means that the aircraft is going to need to nose up to fill the lofting requirements that the harm is looking for. So I'm gonna actually unpause this for a second here, and we're gonna roll away, and we're gonna build some distance here so that you guys can see what that looks like. So what you saw in the middle there was the azimuth steering line, just like a bomb fall line. That's going to center you up in terms of azimuth to where the harm is supposed to go, right? So you center that up. Those two chevrons on the side are your pull-up cue, and those matter a lot in aircraft pull-up mode because the aircraft needs to be the one doing the nose-up maneuver instead of the missile. Now this does two things. One, it requires you to have enough speed to do the nose-up maneuver. There's no required G for it. It's just an angle that you're trying to get to. Two, it gives the missile a little more energy in the terminal phase because it doesn't have to loft itself in the nose-up position. Now, this may be desired because you know that that emitter is going to turn off really quickly, or you're worried about things like that. So the faster it is, the less time of flight it has, the less time the radar has to react. Sometimes this is desirable, sometimes you don't care. Sometimes you just want to fling something at it from really far away and make sure it sees a harm so it shuts up. You know, Skynet can detect harms, and it can force a radar to defend itself. I want to speed up time here a little bit. So a harm's maximum range in pre-brief mode, okay, that was a little funny, is about 80 nautical miles in a really optimistic launch state. So like from 35, 40,000 feet and supersonic, you know, you're going to get these kinds of parameters. I'm going to scooch out here to like 40 and see if I can get the release cues to start showing up here. So you'll also notice on the HUD, on the harm page, you'll see AC range. That means that you are in range for aircraft pull-up, and the FLT. So that's the time of flight of the missile. So if you wanted to calculate, or if you wanted to get really fancy and have the missile hit at an exact time, you would use that time of flight and the current time, and you would say, okay, well, the missile's going to impact in 2 minutes, so it would impact at 5:16 right now if I launched it, if I was in parameters, and that's how you could calculate your time on time of impact for it. So I'm going to speed up here, and I'm going to start holding down the pickle button, and when everything's centered up, you know, as I climb up to the pull-up queue, the missile's going to release, and the harm has been lofted, and there it goes. Now my pull-up game is real shit, so I'm wobbling all over the place. But that's how you would do it in aircraft pull-up mode. The other mode is to have the harm do it itself, right? So in this case, you just hold the aircraft steady and hold down the pickle button, and the harm will just go off. And there it goes. Slay Queen. Alright, so there's all the primary modes. There's one last mode that is sort of embedded into the harm, and that's the pullback mode. Now, harm pullback is a little bit special. What it does is it overrides the pickle button in any mode of operation of the aircraft. Now, by default, this function is turned off. To enable it, you would have to press this harm override button here down at the push button 16. So I'd unbox that. Now, just because you did that doesn't mean it's going to work. What this does is it pulls the computer back from whatever mode it's doing into the current harm primary mode that you've selected here. Okay, so if it's pulling back from say air-to-air mode to pre-brief mode, it's kind of useless unless you've already programmed in all this data, right? What this is most useful with is if you have it selected to self-protect. Oh wow, I didn't think that was going to hit. That's nice. Anyway, so this is going to work best with self-protect mode enabled, and I'm going to demonstrate this by selecting, say, a JDAM here. I'm going to put in TOO and do my usual things here. What am I missing? Defuse instant. Wow, that's impressive. Instant JDAM. Okay, whatever. And we're gonna deselect this. And now we're just waiting for it to time out. So we're gonna do the magic of editing. We're gonna just speed up that time. So right now I'm selecting this JDAM to be employed, right? Or I could select another weapon, say the 82. And if I am locked up by some SAM emitter, I can then just immediately pull back to self-protect mode. And self-protect mode by default will target the highest threat emitter, the most lethal emitter to you. So if I'm locked up by something, the harm will automatically try and attack that radar that's locking me up and trying to kill me, right? The one that has a fire solution. So to demonstrate this, we're gonna come out of active pause. And we're gonna fly towards where we created our mark point. No. Yeah, towards waypoint 1. All right, cool. And through more magic of editing, we're gonna speed up time a little bit. There we go. So this is a little easier because we can see the smoke down there. I'm going to also turn on my JMX here just to kind of drive home a point here. At this point, we're getting into SAM counter tactics here and how you can start using all your sensors combined to find something. So I got my RWR pulled up. I got my harm in pullback mode ready to protect me in case something tries to kill me. And I'm hunting for things, right? So I'm driving down so I can get best visibility. Now, tomorrow's op is going to have weather that's a little bit more dense clouds, so we will have to pop in and out of the weather. I'm going to speed it up here again. Now, the key here is you want to have enough energy going into these kinds of things to be able to maneuver. About 400 to 500 knots is ideal. That's what you were shooting for. Where the hell did those things go? See, this is good. This is good. I don't know exactly where they are. The smoke is gone. I've got my head out. I'm looking for things, right? But I know that they're going to try and shoot at me. So I want to make myself a nice, viable target for them. And let's see if we've got any left. Now at this point, I could also just turn on my ECM just in case some longer range threat tries to engage me. And this is proving to be slightly embarrassing because nothing's shooting at me. Where the hell do they go? They were right in front of us, weren't they? I know I set them up around here.
How many did you set up?
I set up 4 and I've... Ooh, yeah, maybe they're all dead. Okay, cool. So we're going to save ourselves the embarrassment and we're just going to restart. Okay. So we're going to get things going again. That off. Oops. Okay. Weird. Because fuck you, America. And we're going to make sure I'm already ground mode. Make sure countermeasures are set up. Everything's good to go. We're pointing in the right direction. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do manual release type. Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna speed up time to make sure that our JDAMs are queued up by the time we get there. There we go. Quality good. And we're just going to keep driving towards things. Make sure JHEMX is on. I don't know why I do this. I always set myself up like really far away from targets. Okay, there we go. So now we see things. We're trying to look for them right. Now your JHEMX also repeats your RWR, so they're probably somewhere around there, right? Because that's the direction that they're all at. Now from here I could just set up a rough like waypoint of like, okay, they're somewhere there. Alright. So I've got my harm in pullback mode, right? And I've got the JDAM selected. You notice that the harm is selected right now, and you see harm on the HUD. If I press and hold the pickle button right now, a harm's going to go off and not a GBU-38. So there it goes. And it's guiding onto the most lethal emitter that it found. Okay, cool. So now we've got our head out. Okay. We're looking for that thing. There, that's where it is. And we're going to put the emitters at our beam. We're going to start deploying countermeasures, and we're going to make it very hard for them, right? So you want to use three-dimensional maneuvers to try and make the missile lose as much energy as possible.
Altitude.
See that? So I'll go over this in TAC view to kind of demonstrate what exactly is happening here. Now I'm doing just a basic split S here, but the way that I'm orienting the split S is what really matters here. They're trying to track a circle in the sky that's like planar to them. You know, they're trying to circumscribe a circle, and for the missile to try and track a target like that is going to burn a lot of energy. You know what? Let's pull up the TAC view for that real quick. Yeah, I'll switch screens for you guys in Discord real quick. So that all happened pretty quick, but essentially what's happening is let's turn that stuff off. Okay, turn those off. And I'm just gonna do that. All right, can you guys all see the TAC view stuff? Yeah, everybody good? Okay. Okay, so the way that the missile is seeing what's happening here is very different from how we're seeing it. So he's seeing a target tracking across his field of view, sort of perpendicular, right? Now we're putting him a beam, and now those missiles now have to pull lead in a new direction, and they are just about out of rocket fuel. So anything after this is burning energy that they're not going to be able to recover. So we put ourselves perpendicular to them, start deploying countermeasures. One of them's already baited, some of them aren't. And we then create a three-dimensional maneuver. So this is forcing that missile to now try and pull lead in this direction, or down towards the ground. That's good. Doing this at very low altitude is very risky, because now you're in a position to get smacked by manpads. So be very careful with this. This is mildly okay only because I'm over water. If I was over land, I would want to be a lot higher. And be very cognizant of not just all these SA-8s that are going to be shooting at me. So notice what the missiles are doing, right? This guy just pulled a ton of energy, you know, trying to maneuver to do that, and now he's crashing into the dirt. He's trying to pull lead because my flight vector, my flight path is now pointing directly at the ground. So that's where I'm going to be. That's where the radar is tracking that I'm going to be. That's where the missile's trying to maneuver to be at. Now it might not have enough energy to pull out of that maneuver, and some of them smacked into the ground. Some of them didn't, but they noticed that they were not going to be able to make the intercept, and the SAMs were smart enough to realize, okay, those shots are trashed. I can't use them anymore. And these are pretty close range shots. I mean, these are RMAX for the AI, so the closer you are, the more dangerous this is. But the principle stays the same, is that you're trying to create a maneuver that will make the missile, the intercept point, either be unreachable or so hard to reach that the missile's going to burn too much energy and not be able to make it. Like these. These are now subsonic missiles. They're useless. They may not have crashed into the dirt, but look at all that energy bleed. Now, SA-8s aren't that fast or very long range, so it's not too terribly hard, especially at 5 miles or something like that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about trying to hunt these things down, right? So an SA-8 in particular, what you should know about them is that their upper altitude limit for engagement is about 25,000-ish feet, 20,000 feet from their current altitude. So these guys are up on a hill, so it's a little higher. If I wanted to just completely avoid them and not be shot at by them, I could simply overfly them if there's nothing in the high altitude area that will bother me. The SA-6, similar situation. Their maximum engagement altitude is somewhere around 26,000 feet from the current altitude. So, again, just take the altitude of where they're at and then add 20 to 26,000 feet and you'll be safe. These are shorter range systems. Their missiles have less fuel, so they can't reach up at high altitude. And I will try and demonstrate this here in a second. Once I get everything programmed in. It's the third time I'm doing this. Okay. Now, the only time... no, that's not what I wanted. Release type, there we go. Manual. You know what? While we're cruising in, I'll show you guys something that's kind of important. So your HSI, right? To make sure that your coordinates are good for feeding them into a JDAM in case you're going to do like a pre-planned attack or something, you go into Data. You're going to hit Precise, and that's going to give you 4-digit precision here. But what you want is not lat-long decimal. You want lat-long seconds in precise. So this coordinate format is what the JDAM likes to input for pre-planned attacks or any kind of attacks. You could use whatever format you wanted if you were just plugging in a waypoint, but this kind of just makes the coordinate format, you know, consistent across the board. Yeah, okay. We'll unbox that. A2's good. That one's good. He's aligning. We're gonna just do that. So let's say we're ingressing in, right? We're dumb and lazy, and we're just kind of cruising along, and suddenly we get some kind of spike. Oh no, there's an SA-8, right? Like, what do I do? Well, I want to just not engage that. How about I just climb? How about I just don't deal with him, right? I just put him off to the side and start climbing away. Not a problem anymore. Suddenly he can't touch me. The other thing to take note of is that you should never ever directly fly at a SAM site. Never make their job easier. Don't solve their problems for them. You are making it so that you have higher closure rate to the missile, making their intercept easier. Don't do that. Don't make their job easy. Wow, suddenly I'm at 28,000 feet, and I could basically overfly them, and they wouldn't be able to do a damn thing. And look, now I've got an SA-6 out there. Now the SA-6 can be a little more dangerous. It can still reach me up here. So what are we going to do, right? Let's say I want to engage that SA-6. That's my primary target. Right now the 8s are not an issue. Look at that. Flying over them. They can't do a damn thing. they're useless. Alright, so let me get that back in place there. I see the 6. And now I've got him on my hood, right? He's locking me up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to again just put my velocity vector over it. Make my HUD my SOI. Just kind of center it up as best as I can. Put down the mark point or whatever. Then I'm going to start turning away. Now, let's say I don't want to waste my harms on that guy, right? So I've put down a mark point. What can I do? Well, I've got my FLIR with me. And my FLIR is going to be automatically queued to that point that I just created. So right now that's where my FLIR is looking. Make that my SOI, switch to, well, I can't do that. Switch to FLIR. And, okay, so now that I've been launched on, I can sort of reorient to kind of queue up where it is. Now, just like the SA-6, I mean the SA-8, I'm going to start creating problems for that missile. I'm going to make it very hard for him to try and track me. I'm going to turn on my jammer like I should have done. And look at that. He's been defeated. I'm a little lower now, so I got to worry about the SA-8. So I'm going to just climb back up. But now I know exactly where he is. Boom. Crap. Alright. But I can still see this. So I'll just put another mark point down. I'll start climbing. And I know there's 8s over there, so I'm going to just climb in this general direction here. Now, let's say I want to share that with my friends, right? I can read them off the coordinates here. If I want to save this point for later, I can hit the mark button down here, MK1. Now that's a mark point with those exact coordinates saved. So I know that I'm 15 miles away. Now I've got all this situational awareness about the SAM site, right? I know how far away he is. I know that his engagement range is like, this is about his limit of it. So I can just turn away. I can start climbing above him. I can start doing all the things I need to do to keep myself safe. So I'm going to push out a little bit here. And I'm going to set my harm back into self-protect mode. I'm going to come out of the harm. And I want to employ this GBU 38 on him, right? So that thing's all queued up, TOO mode ready. I'm going to go into the JDAM display, go to the mission page, and make sure that the coordinates I have for him are good. So I'm going to just put my nose back on him, or make sure that my FLIR can see him. Right now I'm sitting real high and pretty, and I can just keep climbing actually to make sure that I'm outside of his engagement envelope, because right now it looks like he's at about 3,200 feet, so I want to be at about 30,000 feet or higher. So where did he go? Where did he go? I need to find him again. Where did that fucker go? Oh. There he is. Okay, alright. So... oh, I was looking right at him. How about that? Boom. Okay, so there's my point that I want to hit. Make sure those coordinates are good. 3405, 1982, 3607, 1231. That's good enough. Yeah, good enough. So we're in zone. We're gonna drop a JDAM on him, and we're gonna roll away 10 miles away. See, he's not even shooting at me. I'm too high up. I can do the same thing with an LGB, any kind of Maverick, whatever I really wanted to, right? At this point, I've got options. I can just employ other weapons on my harm. Weapons that have better probability of kill than a weapon that relies on him turning his radar on. So I'm just going to put it into a hold here, because at this point, I'm completely safe. There's nothing that could touch me. There goes my 38. Close enough. Okay. Maybe not too safe. So, that's about the gist of it. If you got any questions, I will open up the floor to that. But I think that'll be the end of the stream. So, thank you guys for showing up for the class. I hope it's helpful, and hopefully it'll help us out tomorrow evening.